These are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, mortgage coaches. Thanks for joining us for our Edge Beginners course. We're going to be giving you a tour around your membership and show you what's available to you. And then once we're done with that, we're going to jump straight into the product. We're going to have you all log into Edge, and you're going to follow along with us as we help you create your first total cost analysis. It's going to be a purchase comparison between an FHA loan and a conventional loan. And once you finish today's course, you will actually have a finished product and a link that you can send to yourself so that you can see how your client would view your presentations. So the idea behind this is you want to get as many of these presentations as you can under your belt to get started, and we're going to help you start hitting the ground running. So to begin with here, let's just talk about what's offered and why you're here, why you're part of the Mortgage Coach community, and what you're trying to accomplish. So obviously, the fastest path to more business starts with having an efficient point of sale selling strategy that includes a modern personalized mortgage analysis. And here at Mortgage Coach, we've been doing this for a long time, since 1997. We've been providing this type of analysis that shows the impact of different loan scenarios over time. And you have two different pieces of software that are at your fingertips. One of them is Mortgage Coach Edge, and that's that icon you see on the left side there. That's going to be your main tool that you're going to use for different types of comparisons. You're going to use that for providing video to your clients. You're also going to use that for courting new realtor partners using open house presentations. Now, the icon on the right is Rate Watch. That's also part of your Mortgage Coach membership. A Rate Watch has two main functionalities. One, it's our mortgage-backed securities tracker, so it's going to keep you in touch with what's going on in the marketplace so that you can make accurate decisions on when to lock or maybe to wait on locking for your clients to get them the best rate possible. We're also going to notify you anytime there's a large change in the market so that you can have your finger on the pulse. Now, the second part of that is it actually notifies you not only when mortgage-backed securities are moving, but it notifies you when one of your presentations is being viewed. So this brings into question a kind of a new thing that's happening in the industry right now. I mean, there's a lot of fear around the new changes that are going to be coming out with the whole integrated disclosures that are coming out in October. And the idea behind this is we've got a couple of months here, but we want to make sure we're prepared to be able to have these conversations when it comes out, because education is the new norm. It used to be that everybody was providing a fee worksheet, and certainly the last thing we want to do is be the average loan officer. We want to exceed expectations and really provide a solid education to our borrower. Now, the new GFE requirement, this new integrated disclosure, is going to have some kind of scary things on it. It's going to have things like the cost over 5 years. It's going to have the APR, which you're used to disclosing, but it's also going to have this weird percentage called TIP. Now, TIP is a total interest percentage over the loan. Now, obviously, this number is extraordinarily high. It's scary, and quite frankly, most borrowers will not understand how to explain this. They're going to think that this is the amount of money you're making on the loan, which is certainly not the case. So you need to be able to speak about it from an educated perspective. Now, what we're going to show you today is how to present a total cost analysis, how to put one together. And a lot of these factors are already in the total cost analysis. So you're going to be able to talk confidently about this when things change, and other originators out there that don't have these tools at their disposal are going to be a little bit dumbfounded. So this is your competitive edge right now. Now, as I was saying, the total cost analysis is going to be your bread and butter report. This is the one that you're going to use to show both purchase and refinance transactions, and you can show it to them by delivering a link, and they can click on that link from a browser or from a mobile device, and they're going to get an experience which is going to have all the education that they need and all the numbers behind the graphs to make a really good educated mortgage decision. Now, as you're looking at it on the screen right now, this is the tablet version, and you can see we're looking at the savings over 60 months. Now, most people in the industry are still going to be delivering something like this. This is the old fee worksheet, and you can see it's only one product. You really aren't getting any comparison. You're just seeing fees. Now, of course, the Mortgage Coach Total Cost Analysis does have a fee detail area, and we're going to show you that as we continue forward in our presentation today. But your job is to get away from this. You want to go from price to advice, and the easiest way to do that is use the tools that are at your disposal. You can see here, this is actually a mobile version of what the total cost analysis looks like. It's got your branding on it. It's got the extensive disclosures that your teams have put together for you, and it can have video messages on it. So when they go through this proposal, they're going to see all the numbers behind every one of the loan options that you're showing. They're going to see the payment breakdowns. They're going to see the monthly payments. They'll see the closing costs. short-term savings. Basically, they get the full rundown on everything that's going on with these loans. And again, from either the mobile or the browser. So you want to be prepared, and you want to actually send one of these presentations to yourself and open it on your mobile device so you can see what your clients are doing. And we'll do that towards the end of the call today. Now, this is what it looks like in the browser-based version. You can see that it's kind of a four-quadrant approach. We've got a top left quadrant, which shows the homeownership analysis, and it's all the basics behind the loan scenarios that are shown. Then on the top right, we're going to have a monthly payment comparison. Bottom left, and what you're looking at right now is actually a rent versus own presentation, which is also available to you. But bottom left, you're going to have a short-term analysis, which is going to default to 60 months. And then bottom right, you'll have a long-term analysis where you can show the long-term impact of each loan that you're showing. Now notice there is a video box in the middle there. So one of the things that you're going to want to get comfortable with is recording video. And I guess the biggest piece of advice I can give you is you look the same in video as you do in person. So don't be afraid of it. You don't have to be a videographer. What the expectations are here is you want to make a connection with your client even when you're not there. And you want to ensure that your advice follows this presentation around when it's shared with different decision makers in the process. Now this is what the total cost analysis looks like. I just showed you the rent versus own, but you can see it's a very similar format. We've got a disclosure, and you can see here it can have your message on it. We've got that video that pops up. We've still got the same kind of four quadrants with a detail up at the top left, and then graphics in the other three quadrants that can show short and long-term impact of each loan chosen. Now the video, when it shows up on the mobile device, you can see it shows up as a full screen here, and they can actually reduce this and listen to your video while they're going through your presentation. So let me see if I can show you another example of this. There we go. So here's what it looks like on the mobile. They'll get that disclosure just like they did in the browser-based version. Then they're going to have your video pop up, and they're going to see you start talking to them. And again, they can reduce that so that they can listen to you while this is going on. They can drill through the different screens like the monthly payment screens, and you have the ability to actually drive their presentation. And this is kind of a more advanced feature that you're going to learn about as you go through more training with us. But there's a feature called Edge Live that allows you to actually highlight areas, pop out more info sections, and it'll automatically do that on the borrower's version of the presentation. So you can see here when you're clicking on things, maybe I'm highlighting a column or I'm drilling into some of the more info sections, it's automatically going to start moving the report that your client's looking at. So just kind of a teaser on that. If you want more information on how to do Edge Live, search our knowledge base for Edge Live. This is a killer functionality of the product, and you definitely want to get into it. But again, a little bit advanced. We want to show you how to walk before you can run. Today is walking, but wanted to tease you just a little bit. So the idea behind this, the whole goal in this is clear communication. We want to make sure that when we're talking to our borrowers, we're not only giving them a solid education on the mortgage experience, but we're keeping those communication lines open through the entire process, whether it's pre-application, post-application, even post-funding. You're able to put videos on these presentations and update them without having to send a new link, without having to send anything to your borrower. When they click on your link, it's always going to show the most recent communication that you've put in your presentation. So what's the opportunity here? One, you can differentiate your brand. Two, you can convert more loans and earn referrals. Three, you can be a leader to realtors. And then you can create smoother sales transactions. We want to try and diffuse all of the negativity that's going to be coming around with these new integrated disclosure changes. And we want to make sure that your experience with your borrowers is the same across the board. So the idea is, make sure you do this for every single one of your borrowers. You're going to start after today's class. You want to try and get 5 under your belt. And once you can do that, it gets really easy. And you'll find that it's going to become an indispensable tool for you. Now, I did say you can be a leader to realtors, so I want to show you what that looks like. This is a co-branded listing presentation. It's just a very basic version of an open house presentation. And you can see it shows a couple of different loan products against each other. You've got your video on it, you've got branding, and then you've also got realtor branding that you can put on there. So just kind of keep this in the back of your head. We're not going to touch too much on this today, but it is available to you inside your Mortgage Coach Edge. Now let's talk about the Rate Watch. Now the Rate Watch, as I said, it's your mortgage-backed security tracker. This is available as a desktop application. It's available inside the browser, and it's also available on your mobile device. So if you haven't downloaded our apps yet, after this call today, I'd like you to go to the App Store on your phone. You can go to the Google Play Store for Android or the App Store on iOS, and just search Mortgage Coach. You're going to find that there's 2 different apps in there. There is the Mortgage Coach Viewer app, which definitely you want to download because that's what your client is going to be downloading when they consume your presentations on their mobile device. The other one is the Rate Watch, and this is for you. So this is going to allow you to have it in your back pocket. You'll always have the news on what the market's doing. You'll also get alerted every time somebody views one of your presentations. Now, the Day Watch is one of the most pivotal points inside the Rate Watch system, because this gives you a minute-by-minute view on what mortgage-backed securities are doing, and it even shows you when we alert you if there's a big change in the industry. Now, very important here, you can share all these screens by simply hitting share buttons inside your mobile app, and you can send these to your borrowers. So you don't have to be an expert on mortgage-backed securities. You just want them to know that you're looking out for their best interests, and you do have your thumb on the pulse. Now, I said that there's going to be real-time alerting in there. And one of the alerts, it's going to tell you when the Fannie Mae coupon is going up or down, and it's going to let you know, hey, there's been a kind of a major movement today, so why don't you check with your lock desk, see if they've repriced yet. If you're thinking about locking something, maybe now's the time to do it. Or, we just kind of fell off a cliff, hold off on locking for a little while. We do expect a rally back towards the end of the day, that kind of stuff. Now, we don't expect you to make all these decisions on your own. You're also given commentary. And we have experts like Dan Rawich, Neil Trineri, we have Bill Fisher, and then we have every once in a while guest experts that'll come in and give you some extra clarity on what's going on in the marketplace, what you should be looking for, what's going to be forming new trend patterns, and what should matter to you in terms of the news. Now, remember I said you can share this very easily. When you hit the share button inside your mobile app, you can share this via text. You can share it via email. If you are going to share it via Facebook, just make sure and observe your company's social media policy. But that is the Rate Watch. And again, after we're done with the call, make sure to search Mortgage Coach in your app store and download this guy. It's going to use the same login and password as you use for Edge. So make sure and get it on there, and it's certainly going to be a helpful tool for you. Now, what else is included in your membership? Well, we've got the Edge, we've got Rate Watch. We also have a tremendous amount of training. There are weekly sales meetings every Tuesday where Dave Savage brings in an industry guest to help talk about new theory, strategies that are working in the marketplace. They'll bring in somebody that's got a good workflow that'll share their workflow. Usually they'll even share slides with you so that you can see what's going on and help. You can actually present this to your borrowers in the same type of fashion. Now, I can't go on without mentioning our support team. Anytime you need support, just email support@mortgagecoach.com. During business hours, which are 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific time, our team is here and we'll respond to your emails within 30 minutes. So we'll always get you a response as fast as possible. We don't have an incoming support line, but I think if you give our email support a try, you will be pleasantly surprised. So the goal of this is we want to make Mortgage Coach a habit so you can ensure your clients can make an educated home buying decision. Now, the easiest way to do that is to dive right in. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pass the screen over to Brian Mering. He's one of our national trainers, and he's going to be walking you through going through an FHA versus conventional presentation inside of Edge. So before we do that, actually, I want to help you guys all get logged in here. In order to follow along, you're going to need to log into your Edge account. So in order to do that, go ahead and open up a browser, whether that's Chrome or Firefox, or if you're using Internet Explorer or Safari, all of them work. You'll need to go to edge.mortgagecoach.com. So if you need to, go ahead and reduce this GoToMeeting window so you can follow along. But I'd like you to open up your browser, go to edge.mortgagecoach.com. And you're going to log in using your email address and your password. Now, if you've not yet logged into Edge, your password is probably still a temporary password. If it is, it's probably PASS123. That's PASS 123. If you've already logged into either Edge or Rate Watch before, you can use that same password that you created previously. Now, once you have finished logging in, I'd like you to go to your GoToMeeting control panel, and it's actually the GoToWebinar control panel, and click on that little hand button. Raise your hand and let us know that you've been able to log in, and then we'll go ahead and continue forward, and Brian will take the screen over, and he'll help you get along. Thank you, Judd. I see that you've been able to log in. It looks like we got a couple more people. Andy, thank you very much. Carrie, Claire, you guys having trouble logging in? Let's get you logged in. Make sure and raise your hand when you're logged into Edge. Come on, guys. Let's get a couple more. I want to make sure I just don't have Andy and Judd following along. We've got several people in here. Let's make sure everybody can do this. All right, so understand that some of you may or may not have a login yet, and that's okay. If you don't have a login yet and you do have a membership, just email our support team, support@mortgagecoach.com, and make sure to let them know that you need to have your password reset. They'll send you a password reset along with your login information so that you can get into Edge. But we are recording this as well, so if you'd like to follow along with us after the call, once you're able to log in, this will be posted in our coaching call archive, and we'll show you where that's at towards the end of the call here when we cover a little bit more about the support. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lower everybody's hands, and I'm going to pass control over to Brian. And Brian, once you get that, go ahead and show your screen and unmute yourself. Say hi to everybody, and let's drive them through. All right, looks like we're seeing your screen now, Brian.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm glad that you folks were able to log in. For those of you that weren't, as Jacob was saying, we'll make sure that you have access to the program just as soon as possible. I've got my user name all ready to go and my password, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Okay. Let's start off. I'm going to draw your attention to a couple areas up here. We're looking at the recent client area, and then we're also looking at the recent partners. Recent partners would be for your realtor partners. Recent clients, this is where we're actually going to be building our first Edge report today. And to do that, all we're going to do is click on New Client, and we'll go ahead and we'll create a new file. In this recent client area, it's going to have the most recent files that you've been working on. So you can see by the date range here when I've been working on these. If you do need to find a particular file, there is a search button that you can go to. Just hit the View All, and you can go to searching for a particular person. You can search by first name, last name, any friendly name that you've done. If that fails, you can always go to the search and search all, and it's going to have every presentation that you built. And you can see that they are organized with a folder, and you're going to have different presentations that were built. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Go ahead and everybody click on New Client that's able to log in and use the system. Then I'm going to go ahead and just start entering data. And as I'm going along, you want to make sure that you're doing the same information. You can go ahead and create any particular name that you want. I'm going to keep it simple for today's presentation. This is going to be an individual presentation rather than a marketing report. So I'm going to go ahead and start diving in. Keep it real simple. Make sure that John's married. He has married to Mary Smith. And we're going to go ahead and you can see that defaults to client to prospect. We're going to go ahead and use the client button today. And we're going to use the own button. If you did want to have information in there regarding the rental status for future fields, you can go ahead and click on the rent button. But we're going to go ahead and use the own. And I'm going to go ahead and use a friendly name so that I'll be able to remember this report. And as Jacob was mentioning, I think he said that we're going to do a conventional transaction or a conventional loan versus an FHA. So I'm just going to go ahead and type that in for the friendly name at this time. Now I'm going to draw your attention over here to the arrow buttons. You're going to see one on each side when I go to the next screen, but this one, you can see it highlights. When I arrow over, that does save the information that I just entered. So we go ahead and click on that. And this is going to be a purchase transaction. You can see you have a variety of different choices here. Purchase transaction, of course, is for purchasing. The other ones would be in regards to refinance transactions. You'll start building those type of presentations here in a little bit, as Jacob was saying. We're going to go ahead and build your first purchase transaction today, though. You can see that now I do have an arrow button for both left and right. Go ahead and arrow over. And before I do that too, I just want to point out the tabs here. So you're going to be building this report. You're going to start off from client to goals to assumptions, and then gradually work your way all the way to the end when you're actually going to have the presentation. So let me go ahead and arrow over. Now this is where you start capturing information about your customer, basically. If they currently have a mortgage, maybe they're going to be upsizing the home that they're looking at. They might have their current situation, and you can capture data here. And I'm just going to go ahead and quickly put information in. And again, you would want to put information in there as well, and do this so that at the end of this presentation, you will have an actual report built by yourself for those of you that were able to log in. Now, this is where you're going to enter your purchase price. Let's say we're going to put in, say, $350,000. Original appraised value, we're not going to worry about that field right now, or the total current payoff, because this is a purchase transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and arrow over. This is where you capture information about your particular borrowers. I'm going to put that John and Mary have a combined income of, say, about $95,000. Now, credit status, we don't actually have a credit report. We're going to be basing this upon an initial interview with them as to what they're gauging their credit is. We'll go ahead and put excellent. Most people feel that their credit's excellent anyways, right? Let's go ahead and scroll down. Now you can see approximate non-mortgage debt. This is good information, so you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on with your DTI. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that they currently have, say, about $7,500 worth of non-mortgage debt. And on a monthly basis, I do have the monthly button clicked here as opposed to the annual. I'm going to say that it's costing them about $250 a month. Savings balance, this is going to be very important because you got to know where that down payment's coming from, where the cash at close is going to come from. So you do hope to hear that that they do have that money. I'm going to put that, let's put that they have about $35,000 in a savings account, earning a whopping, say, 0.5%. They've been saving it for that purchase transaction that they're going to be doing with us. And the tax bracket here, very good information so that you could present to them in future fields, and on your actual report, you're going to be able to show the benefit of home ownership. You can see how that tax savings is coming over for their having a mortgage and paying taxes. So I'm going to go ahead and enter, say, 25%. If you don't know what their tax bracket is, Edge does have a button here that you can click on, and I'll just real quickly tap on here. It will drive you to a nice way to be able to calculate what their potential tax benefit is. Now, do remember that we're not tax advisors. You're going to do your best job at estimating what potentially it could be, because you don't know what their total deductions and all their tax information is. So I put that disclaimer in there that you're not a tax advisor, of course. And this button down here is great if you're able to take advantage of if you participate in the mortgage credits. So you'd want to take advantage of that if you folks are offering that. So that way you can include that in your presentation as well. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and again make sure that we're able to get at least 2 products in there and get a report for you at the end of this presentation. Okay, so this is where you get some information from John and Mary about what they're looking to accomplish as far as a mortgage payment. I put initially that they're making a payment of about $1,800, and maybe they are looking to step up a little bit. So maybe they're saying that they can afford a payment of, say, $2,250. Maybe their ideal payments, say, in the range of $2,000. And this is good information for you, so you can kind of gauge what type of property price and loan that you're going to be looking at. And let's say that they're looking in the range of, say, $300,000 to $350,000. And it's not a cash or refinance, so we're not going to worry about the desired cash out. Okay, this is where we're going to actually start doing the work. We're going to do, first we'll put in, the 30-year conventional.
Hey, Brian, can I stop you for just a moment?
Sure, go right ahead.
I just want to make sure everybody was able to follow along. We've gone through the first 4 screens in our Edge Wizard, and hopefully you were able to enter the exact same data that Brian was showing you, and we can start on doing these products. But I want to make sure we didn't lose anybody in the process. If you've run into any problems or you're falling behind, go to the questions area in your GoToMeeting toolbar and just type in and say, hey, I'm lost on this screen, or I'm stuck here, and then I will help you through the questions area as Brian continues to drive forward. But hopefully everybody's with us. If you are with us and you're on this first product screen, if you would, go ahead and raise your hand. Just let us know you're still there, and we'll continue forward. Thank you, Judd. Appreciate that. Andy, excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Let's go ahead and continue. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Jacob. We'll go ahead and keep moving forward. Okay, so we're going to build our first product, a 30-year conventional loan, and you do want to keep in mind that you have up to about 12 spaces here, so you want to use these abbreviations wisely. So what I might do in this case, rather than, let's see here, I don't want to go too long. I'll go ahead and I'll leave it with this, and I'm going to show the down payment percentage down here as we go along. So this is not a refi, it is a purchase transaction. I'm going to go ahead and build this, and the initial price range I believe that I had was from $300,000 to $350,000. So I'll go ahead and maybe split the difference, go at $325,000 right in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and put what they're going to be putting in for the down payment. Now, Edge has a neat feature in here that you can actually put a dollar amount if you wish, or let it do the math for you. I'm going to go ahead and put 5% down and let it do the calculation for me. Tab out of that. So it's telling me that I'm going to need to have a down payment of $16,250, and my base loan amount would be $308,750. I'm going to say that we could get an interest rate for them current market conditions, say about 4.25%. And you do want to enter the term of the loan. Take a look at it. It is highlighted over here. You're going to be entering it in months. So I'm going to go ahead and put 360. And it is a fixed rate loan. We'll go ahead and we'll arrow over. You can see that there are additional fields down here. It's not going to pertain to this particular product at this point in time, but if you did have an interest-only product or a balloon product, you'd be able to enter that information here. Going to arrow over to the right, and it is going to save the information. Okay, this is where having fee templates, I'm going to go ahead and click on the closing cost detail here. Could be very beneficial for you. I'm kind of curious here, does anybody in the presentation today, does anybody have fee templates in place already? If you could raise your hand, just so I kind of have an idea of who might have access to those. So you take a moment. Okay, it looks like Judd has them. Okay, all right, so maybe what I'll do is I'll do a quick, give you an idea of what the fee templates look like here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and build the fee template here, and I'm going to go ahead and use the green button down here and add a fee. And I'll put in, say, 5 common fees here, so I'm just going to hit that 5 times real quick. I'm going to go down to the drop-down menu here, and it has a list in place already of a lot of the common fees that you're going to come across with. And I'm going to go ahead and tap on this. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the A's. I'm going to put an appraisal fee in there. And you can either enter a dollar amount or a percentage amount. So I'm going to go ahead and put an appraisal fee, $450. And you'll arrow over, and you can choose who you want to pay that fee, whether it's a borrower, lender, seller, broker. And if it's an APR affecting fee, if you want to add it to the loan, if it's a prepaid escrow. A good source to be able to get information about the fees would be, possibly a processor, underwriter. If you have a compliance department, ask them for a fee sheet so that you can go ahead and start developing these templates. They do save you a tremendous amount of time, and I'm going to show you how it does that. But I'll go ahead and I'll click in a couple more here. Let's go ahead and go with maybe a title report. There's one. There's underwriting. Always have to pay an underwriter. It's $350. If you're going to pay an underwriter, you better help make sure that your processor gets paid. Let's find a processor. Has a dollar fee. And I'm going to type in, let's see if I can find some insurance here. And if there is a fee that that you don't see in the drop-down menu here, you can always add a custom fee. And you click in there, type in whatever item that you need to, and if it's going to go based upon the loan amount or the property value. So you do have that option as well if you come across a fee that's not in there. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel it, but this is how you would build a template. And for those of you that have not built the template, you might go ahead and, like I said, click on at least 5 fees, add about 5 fees, and then you're going to want to save the template. So what you do is you click on Save Template, and then you're going to want to name it. If it is a state-specific fee, then you want to go ahead and add that feature in there. I'm going to cancel out of this. I'm not going to save this in this particular case, but this is how you would save your first template, and then it would be available in this drop-down menu here. I'm going to go ahead and go to template that I have in place here. This is a conventional loan purchase fees. I'm going to hit that so you can see exactly what happens. So I've got all these entered in here already, ready to go. And all I have to do is come down here, click on Apply to Loan. It saves you a tremendous amount of time in being able to build your presentations quickly, because the goal is that you want to be able to build this, 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and go through it and get proficient at being able to build these as quickly as possible. Now you can see that once I did do that, these areas are grayed out. I'm not going to have to worry about putting any information in here. If you didn't want to do that, if you didn't want to use the closing cost detail, you can always ballpark the fees. But again, you want to be able to provide as accurate information as possible to your borrowers. If you have any points, you can go ahead and enter that as a negative number or a positive number, depending upon where the market conditions are. And if you have a good idea where when you're going to close a loan, if it's going to be in the middle of the month, you can put your prepaid interest days in there as well. For this presentation, I'm just going to go ahead and leave those blank, keep moving forward. Okay, these are where you're going to want to put your monthly costs associated with the particular property. Your realtor is going to be a great source for this. Maybe the property has some homeowners association dues. If you're not able to communicate with the realtor and you don't want to do a lot of research, but you're very familiar with a particular area of what things cost, you can always use the percentage button here. Here in California, we use a factor usually of about 1/4% for hazard insurance. For property tax, I'm going to go ahead and put, say, about 1 1/4 in. You can see it automatically does the monthly cost calculation. Over in this field, now you can see I'm in the other section. This is great if you live in an area. We might have some people that are in Florida on this particular call. You might have flood insurance, wind insurance. Here in California, sometimes you have actually 2 association fees. You would put that information in there. Now, this particular product we're using, you can see my LTV is at 95% over here. So I do know that we're going to have some type of form of mortgage insurance. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put in, if you know what it's going to cost on a monthly basis, or what your factor is. And of course, your factor is going to be based upon the borrower's FICO score and how high you're going to go on your LTV. I'm just going to go ahead and put a factor in, say 0.7. Tap down. Now you can see it also, once I enter that field, it allows some additional drop-down boxes. Our mortgage cutoff percent, well, we know that this is a conventional loan, so that's going to come off at about 78%. And I'm not going to calculate that on balance like I would in the next product with an FHA loan. It's not going to be declining. It's going to be a consistent payment throughout the life of the loan. If you choose to put the mortgage tax as deductible, you can click in this field. If you're going to collect hazard insurance, 12 months, you can click on these fields here. The amount of reserves that you wish, how many months, you can enter that information in there. Depending upon when you're closing in the year, you can enter that data. This isn't going to include a second loan at this point. We're going to try and keep it simple so that we can go ahead and keep moving and have you guys develop an actual report by the end of this presentation. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually add another product. Remember, Jacob said that we're going to compare 2 loans. It's a great idea when you're presenting to your borrower at least a couple options for you, and you might put an additional one in there that they might not have mentioned to you that they would like to see, because you never know what that might bring about. That might be an option that they didn't think about that you're going to be able to present to them. And it might be a product that you think that they would be best suited for, that they might not have mentioned to you, and you might start getting a lot of interest in that by like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Look at the payment on this, or look at the particular interest rate. So you might be able to put an ARM in there. So again, you can enter up to 4 products in this particular one. So let me go ahead and add. Actually, Jacob, could we enter? Is it 5? Because this is a purchase transaction.
So that's a great question, Brian. You can do 4 new products. If you're doing a refinance transaction, you can do 4 new products and the current mortgage. So that would give you a 5 total. But for purchase transactions, it is 4 products is your max. But just something to keep in mind, if you do have more products that you'd like to compare, there's always a copy analysis function that will show you once we get to the analysis screen. So you could potentially copy this report and do another 4 different options. I mean, showing 8 options to a client probably not going to be the norm for you. I would say if you're showing 4, that's a lot of options anyway. But you can do multiple presentations for a borrower, so feel free to if there's different needs, maybe different purchase prices would be a good reason you'd show more than 4 products. But for today's discussion, we'll keep it down at 2 products. Just keep it nice and simple: 5% conventional and a 3.5% FHA. So Brian, if you would go ahead and continue with the FHA, and hopefully everybody is still able to keep up with us. As I said before, just please try and follow along. Do the data entry the same way as Brian's doing it if you're able to log in. If you're not and you're just viewing this as a first-time presentation, and I did get that note from a couple of people in the chat box, perfectly fine. Just check it out, see how the workflow would go, and then when we get to the end of the presentation, you'll be able to see what this finalized borrower education piece looks like. So Brian, if you would, go ahead and take over, and we'll do the FHA.
Thanks, Jacob, and thanks for fielding those questions. I've seen that question box fill up there, so keep those coming. We want to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible with the product, and at the end of this presentation, have these 2 that we're building today. So this particular second product I am building is a 30-year FHA. So I just labeled it 30-year FHA so that you can see that you'll be able to see the difference here. Here's the first product that we built, 30-year conventional. I'm just taking a quick look at these ratios that are popping up, kind of keeping an eye over here. In the notes section, you're free to use this, enter any particular notes that you feel are important, and this information is strictly for your information. It will not be shared with the borrower, so you can start entering information about what you feel is important, who might the decision maker be in the process, maybe a particular note about how you notice that they're absorbing information as you're talking to them, about who is going to be more analytical and might want to see how the numbers are driven line item by line item, who's going to be more, say, visual and enjoy the graphics that you're going to be presenting them with. Just kind of keep that in mind and do take notes, because you might do 100 pre-qualifications or presentations to people, and the more information that you're able to capture, the more personalized it's going to be for them. You're not going to forget this person, and if you don't forget them, you're going to be able to build that rapport with them, and they're going to, have that trust with you. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward. Now, in this, when I build this product, I can use this copy from feature, and again, it's going to be a time saver because you want to be able to build these as quickly as possible. I'm going to go ahead and click on copy from, and use a drop-down menu. So I'm going to copy on that 30-year conventional mortgage. And you'll see once I click on that, it brings in all the information that I captured on the previous product that I just built. Now, in this particular product, it is going to be an FHA loan, and a couple things that you have to keep in mind. So I have a product template that is already built, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'll show you how to save a particular template in the very next screen when we get to that. But I'm going to click on the 30-year FHA. So it's also telling me that I have.
Brian, let's hold up for just a second there. Most people don't have product templates in there, so let's go back to the copy from function and go ahead and copy that conventional, because everybody else is going to be doing the same thing you are. So everybody, if you would, go ahead and copy the conventional like Brian's doing here, and then he's going to show you how to modify this to turn it into an FHA.
Okay. All right, so the thing that, as Jacob was saying, is that since you don't have the property templates yet, you're going to have to label what type of upfront premium that you're going to take. So we're going to take an FHA, and again, it brought over the information from our previous product. So $325,000 is our purchase price. Now we're going to change our down payment in this one. We're going to go ahead and put in 3.5%. So it's going to change my base loan amount, and what we'll do just for kicks, we'll go ahead and we'll say that the FHA is a little bit better rate. We'll go ahead and say it 4% versus the 4.25%. The month is going to be the same, and we're going to go ahead that it is a fixed rate mortgage. I'll go ahead and arrow over. Okay, now this is where, again, the time saver. If you had the templates in place, you go ahead and hit the closing cost detail. I happen to have one already built for an FHA transaction. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to add apply to loan. Okay, so that has my FHA costs in there. Now, because it's an FHA loan and I hit that closing, that template, I'm not going to put any points in there. This particular template that I had did have some points, so I'm going to have to go back and change this. I'm not going to charge any points at this point in time. I'm not going to put any prepaid interest days in there. But it did calculate the upfront mortgage insurance premium. If it did not have the template already built, you just click on the percentage and put the 1.75 factor in there. And you can add that upfront mortgage insurance to the loan amount with the drop-down box here. So you can see that the financing level is 96.5. I'll arrow over, back, okay. And you can see the cost of the upfront mortgage insurance premium. Let me go ahead and arrow over. Okay, so it did carry over the additional monthly expenses, so I used that copy feature, as Jacob said. Now, this is where I was mentioning to you that you can actually create a template. So if you wanted to save this particular template that you built, now all you'd have to do is click on Save as Template, and then you would label it. So now you have a 30-year FHA template that you could apply to all the future transactions that you're going to be doing. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and arrow over. So you can see over here on the right, you have two products. You have the 30-year conventional and the 30-year FHA loans.
Hey, Brian, can I hold you up for just a second?
Sure.
If you would, just on that screen, there's a little bit of a difference in mortgage insurance for FHA programs versus conventionals. So if you would show them how are they going to change that percentage and what should they do with those cutoffs?
Okay, good point. Okay, so with the mortgage insurance, go ahead and click on that. Okay, so you know your factor is going to be different. And the other thing about it is that the factor with an FHA loan is going to be based upon, it's going to be a declining balance. So I believe the factor, Jacob, FHA factor right now?
It's going to be 0.85 for the high LTV loans. If you're going lower LTV, you'll see that the factors actually get a little bit lower, but these are all static guidelines, so you can always refer to the HUD Clips website to find your FHA guidelines. They're the same for everybody, though. So in this case, if you're following along and creating this presentation with us, you are doing a high LTV FHA, so go ahead and put in your factor at 0.85, please. And Brian, if you would.
There we go. Okay. So once I enter the factor at 0.85, it automatically defaults. Okay, that's actually, Jacob, I think that was an update.
Yep, recently. That's brand new. That came out about
a couple weeks ago. That didn't. That's great. Okay, so now you don't even have to calculate it. So once you entered a high LTV FHA loan, it automatically enters that it's going to be calculated, or once you enter FHA, rather, it's going to be calculated on the mortgage, and it's going to be a declining as it goes through the process. So we know that we're going to have it, because it's a high LTV, we're going to have it for the life of the loan. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that, let's see here, arrow down. Okay, so we know that we're going to have it for the life of the loan, and we're going to make sure that we put in, say, 360 there, because it's a high LTV. There's not going to be any type of a cutoff percentage, unfortunately, because with the FHA products right now, it is for the life of the loan. So again, you could put in Save as Template, just as we mentioned before. And I did have some mortgage insurance, or some hazard insurance reverse. I'm just going to zero that out so we're kind of consistent on all of them. This was copied over from the template that I made before. Yours would be 0. Okay, so now we're going to go into the analysis section. And as Jacob mentioned in that intro that we were talking about, these are the 4 quadrants that you're going to be able to provide a presentation to. Now, we built these 2 products, and you can start to see the difference between the 2 when we go into the analysis section. You can see the 30-year conventional loan is offering a $19 savings over the 30-year FHA loan. We have our benchmark set up here, highest by default, but you can make adjustments there if you wish to. If you want to choose a particular product, you can change those. But by default, it does go to the highest. Let me go to conventional here so you can see the difference. Okay, so it's showing you here that the FHA loan is at a cost of $19. That's why it's in red versus how we had it before. So however you think it's going to be appealing to your borrower and for your presentation, you can make that choice. We have a property appreciation rate of 3%. I think that's a pretty good factor over most areas, but you can adjust that as you feel it's particular for your particular area. And then our long-term analysis. This is based upon this information here. So 15 years is what we're doing our long-term analysis on, and you can see how it's factored in this area. So over a 15-year period, we're showing how much total interest and MI is paid. You could choose to do net worth if you wish, and again that factors in that 3% appreciation, or the principal paid. So you do have 3 choices there as to how you want to provide a presentation to your borrower. And this is your short-term interest savings area. This is showing the cost of the transaction over. It looks like it defaults to 60 months or 5 years. So it's in line with what you're going to have to be presenting, as Jacob showed in the beginning of the presentation. It's in line with what's going to be coming about with the TRID legislation that's coming into effect. So this is showing that the FHA is actually providing a savings in that 5-year period over the 30-year conventional loan. So let's go ahead and I'm going to arrow over. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of time with your presentations. There are a couple buttons here, but I think, Jacob, if I'm not mistaken, you probably want to go ahead and get to this presentation so that they could see that. So you're going to want to capture their email address. So let's see here. We use the name John and Mary. And you want that email address because this is how you're going to send your report to them. So you got to make sure that you have that. And if you had some information about the property that they were looking to buy, I'm just going to put TBD and capture the additional information, of course, phone numbers and so forth. Arrow over. And as Jacob was saying, we're doing a total cost analysis. We use the acronym TCA. You're going to be hearing that verbiage quite a bit, TCA. And we're going to show them, you do have additional products here, seller buy downs, amortization schedule, and Fannie Mae, but TCA is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to make sure that we have both these products checked off here. If you didn't want to choose one, all you'd have to do is unclick that particular product. But again, we want to show you those 2 products in the report. And if you take a look here, this is information about your disclaimers. This is information about how the payment's going to be presented. We have, by default, this verbiage in here, and it forces us when we send out a presentation to make sure that we're telling the borrower whether or not the taxes and insurance are included in the payment. It's a good idea to do if you know that you're going to be generating a lot of reports that are in one particular way. You can change the verbiage to however you feel is best. But I'm going to go ahead and click that they are included here. Get rid of that space. Okay, I'm going to arrow over. And these basically are each of the quadrants that we just showed on the analysis section. So you can change the verbiage and put what you're going to want to show or any particular information that's important in each of these different quadrants here. That was at top right quadrant, monthly savings, and the conventional was offering a $19 savings over the FHA. Next one is the short-term one. You can change the months a year again, and then you can change the verbiage if needed. Long-term analysis, we're looking at 15 years, and you can make a change here if you wish. I'm going to show the principal paid in this presentation, and again, you can change the verbiage. Okay, this is the very last area of the presentation, and again, I do have the email link chosen. You do need that borrower's email in there in order to provide the report to them via email, so it's very important that you capture it. This button also is very important. You want to make sure that you do have a checkbox in here because you want to see when that report was viewed. You want to get that alert that is sent to you via email that the report was viewed, and it'll show you how long that report was viewed, and then you can follow up with your borrower right afterwards, or a day later if you don't want to feel like you're right on top of them. But you can follow up with them and say, look, I know that you reviewed the report. Did you have any questions with that? It's not uncommon that a lot of people have questions. I'm here for you. What can we do to answer those questions? Enable the call button. You'll see that where that's at on the actual presentation here shortly. And you absolutely want to make sure that you're providing a quote date. That way it just covers yourself because, of course, we're not going to be locking in the interest rate at this point in time, but this is where the rates were available at this point in time. So you want to make sure that you cover yourself with that quote date in there. And then I always like to preview my reports before I send them out, because I want to make sure that the information is accurate. And I'll go ahead and I'll pull that up. And this is a report that you're going to be sending out to your borrower. So I would just quickly scroll through it and make sure that it is what I wish to present to them. You can see the 4 quadrants. The button that I just talked about, enable the Call Me Now button. That's right. That would be right up here. There is additional information on that feature. I think Jacob wants to keep the presentation short here. So in our knowledge base, there is a video in there, and I'll show you how to access the knowledge base here in a second as we're wrapping up the presentation to you. But I do want to make sure that we get to this. So for those of you, and what I might do is I might pause. For those of you that have built the presentation, I want to make sure that you're seeing the same information. So maybe at this point I'll take a little pause, and if those of you that are building the presentation, were you able to get to this point? If you can raise your hand. Okay, good. There's a hand there. Oh, a couple hands. Okay, good. Looks like a couple of you are very, very comfortable with this so far, and hopefully I didn't go through it here too quickly. I'm going to see if you look up at the top here, you can see that there's 2 tabs now. This is a report, and I'm still in Edge here, so I can go and I can make changes if I wish to that, and you can see that the changes are made very quickly. Jacob, did you want me to show that at this point?
Actually, no, we'll stay away from Edge Live for now, but let's have everybody generate a link. And if you would, Brian, show them how to generate a link real quick. Everybody follow along, hit the Generate Link button here inside Edge. This is going to be the link that you're going to deliver to your clients. Now, for today's discussion, what I'd like you to do is hit the Generate Link button. So, Brian, if you would, hit the Generate Link button, please. And you guys should have a link that looks something like this. It's going to say mcedge.tv. The end of your link is going to look a little bit different from what Brian's doing, but that's just because yours is an individual one for your report. But I'd like everybody to go ahead and select that link like Brian did, where you just highlight it with your mouse, and then you're going to right-click on it and hit Copy. Now, if you would, go ahead and open up your email client. Brian, you don't have to do it on yours, but I'd like everybody on the call that's following along here, go ahead and open up your email client, whether it's Outlook, Gmail, whatever else you use, and I'd like you to start a brand new email and email it to yourself. So you're going to address that email to yourself. Then in the subject line, just put Edge Presentation. And then in the body of the email, just right-click and hit Paste, and paste that email, that link that you just copied into your email. And then go ahead and send it to yourself. Now, the reason we're doing this is after we're done with the call today, I'd like you to check your mailbox and just see what it looks like from the client's perspective as to what they're going to receive and what kind of an experience they're going to have. Now, I would also encourage you to open this on your mobile device. If you're able to receive email on your mobile device, open this email that you just sent to yourself and click on the link, because you're going to get the experience that the client gets, where they have to download the app in order to be able to view the presentation. And you want to be very familiar with how this is going to interact, so you can instruct your clients on this, and in fact your realtor partners when they're talking to their clients. Now, Brian's pointing at something right now that's actually very important, and we're not going to discuss too much today because it's a little bit more advanced than our beginner session, but he's pointing at the Add Audio Video button. Now, remember I said back in the early part of the presentation that this is the way that you can ensure that your advice follows the presentation no matter where it gets passed. You're not going to do it today, but just be aware of where this is at. You can add audio video here by simply clicking that button, and it'll initiate your webcam on your computer, so you can run a webcam presentation. And there's a more advanced way to do it that we just released a couple of weeks ago, and that's the ability to use your mobile app to record. So hopefully this is turning on some lights for a couple of you. When you're doing these presentations, especially when you're doing, say, open house presentations, you can actually use your mobile device to do a video walkthrough of the property. You can put it on a selfie stick and walk around or something like that. But there's all kinds of opportunity for you. And just don't don't be afraid of the camera. It really is going to be your best friend. It's the easiest way to generate that eye contact with your borrower without ever having to meet them. So we're going to go ahead and wrap for today. But Brian, if you would, I do want to explain a couple of things on that finalized presentation so everybody understands what they're going to be looking at when they view this on their mobile device or in the browser when they click on it after the call today. But as Brian said, that top left area, that's really the nuts and bolts. That's all the numbers that are behind each one of the proposals that you've created. So what I'd like you to do is, if you have your preview of the presentation open, click on the More Info button on that top left quadrant. Now this is going to give you the drill down. So you can see we've got the payment breakdown there. It's showing everything from the P&I payment, the taxes and insurance, the mortgage insurance, even the HOAs. It's all showing there. And you'll notice that if you hover your mouse over either one of those graphs down at the bottom, Brian, if you would, yeah, there we go. It breaks up the payment, so you can see that it's showing you that the P&I is 1717 on that one, 1698 on that one. But you can see it breaks them up between the payment and the escrows. Now, if you had chosen to do a reinvestment strategy of any kind, and that's either reinvesting money into principal every month or reinvesting into a new investment vehicle that maybe you're working on with a financial planner, that would appear as a separate striation on these graphs. But for today's discussion, no reinvestments on this one, so we're just looking at P&I and the escrows. Now, the closing cost tab that Brian's pointing out, when you click on that one, you'll see that there's fee detail buttons. Now, the fee detail buttons will actually show you the itemization that you used inside of Edge. So this is the one that allows you to get away from the fee worksheet, because we bury it in here for you, because these aren't the most important things about presenting this to your client. The most important thing is this mortgage going to work for them? Is the payment in line with what they expect? Is the long-term performance what's going to match their goals? But we do give you the option to show these fees. We want to make sure it's still transparent. You can certainly drive your borrower through this part of the presentation and show them all the different fees. But it's there. We're not hiding behind anything. We just don't want it to be the focal point of the presentation. So Brian, if you would go ahead and close this details screen, and we're going to have everybody click on the More Info on the top right quadrant. So that is the monthly payment. And you can see that what we're getting here is kind of a recap of the information we were looking at on the top left, but there's a couple of additional things here. It's showing the property appreciation rate and the tax bracket rate. Now, this is where, as Brian said before, you want to disclaim yourself against being a tax advisor, because you're not, and unless you've got a CPA, you really shouldn't bring it across that way. So that's where your payment notes really do come in handy. So in that payment notes area, you would probably come in here and add a little blurb after that taxes and insurance part that says, please consult your CPA or tax attorney for final tax advice, something like that. But we don't have to do that for today. I just wanted to show you where it does appear. And go ahead and close that one, Brian, and let's take a look at the bottom left quadrant, because this one's pretty important. So bottom left, this is savings over 60 months. And as Brian was saying, we're looking at the unrecoverable costs of each loan over the 60-month period of time. And the way this calculates out is, it's not the monthly savings multiplied by 60. It's actually substantially different. What we're doing is we're starting with that interest in MI, and that Brian's going to highlight right now. If you would go ahead and left click on that, Brian. We're starting with that figure. We are going to subtract the tax benefit, that second figure right below it. So we'll take the 73 minus the 20, because that's a positive, and then we're going to add the closing in points. So when we get that, we end up with that 56 that's in the orange area. That's the total cost over the 60-month period of time for that particular loan product. Now we do the same thing on both products. Then we compare those total costs against each other. So that's how we're getting that $24.77 savings on the FHA loan. Now, some of you might be looking at this and going, how in the world am I saving with an FHA loan over a conventional, especially when the conventional is a higher down payment? This should be a no-brainer that the conventional would be saving. But this brings into question one thing that, no borrowers know about, but very few originators really know about. And Brian had alluded to it earlier when we were talking about the MI discussion. And that's that FHA has declining MI over time. So if we take a look at this, and Brian, go ahead and close out of this section here and click on the payment stream for the FHA product. When you do an FHA product, That whole declining balance thing, it's a calculation that happens every 12 months based on the average outstanding balance of the loan. And it recalculates the mortgage insurance payment. So you can see our payments going down over time. So even though we are required to carry that MI for the life of the loan, when we start off with a $250 MI payment, by the time we get to the end of the term, it's only about 25 bucks. And this is a great education point that you can share with your borrower. Now, the other reason that FHA is showing a savings is the closing costs were substantially different between these two products. So it didn't overcome the closing costs necessary to provide a savings against that conventional. But let's take a look at that long-term section real quick. We'll run through that, and then we'll go ahead and wrap for today. But long-term section, when you hit the more info, you notice it says principal paid right now. Brian showed you that there were 3 different metrics you can choose. There's principal paid, there's net worth, there's interest in MI. And we're going to show basically the same information behind them, but the graphics will show whatever you isolated. So you can see we're showing the equity position at that 15-year period of time. You can see the total tax benefit and the total net worth as a result of their equity and any liquid assets that you decide to develop for them. So let's go ahead and close out of this guy. And Brian, if you would, we're all set. We've done our first total cost analysis. Congratulations on getting through it. I know that Judd had a question on the fee sheet entry. Judd, if you would, type in what your question is there, and we'll try and address that for you. And we'll be able to show you that. We'll be able to show that to you in just a moment. For those of you, I know we said it was going to stop at 10 o'clock. We'll stick around for a couple more minutes so that we can answer a couple of questions, but feel free to jump off at this point. Again, I would encourage you, open that link that you sent to yourself, try it on the browser, and then try it on your mobile device so you can see what the borrower experience is going to look like. But with that said, for those of you who need to jump, go ahead and jump. And Judd, actually, if you have a microphone, I'm going to go ahead and let you ask your question. So I'm going to unmute you. And Judd, you are unmuted. Can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Thanks for joining us, Judd. What's your question, sir?
Yeah, I just noticed when you enter the fee sheet, you can actually put points in and then taxes and hazard insurance reserves, but they're also on the main pages. So do you just leave those off the fee sheet and enter like points on that main page?
So there's 2 ways to do it. That's a great question, Judd. The main way to do it is you want to actually use the reserves area. I know that your template might have the reserves already populated there. Brian, if you would go back into Edge real quick, and let's go to either one of the products. Just click on products there, and we'll go to the fee screen on one of them. Now, for the rest of you that are in here asking about this, what Judd's talking about is he's got a template in there that already has things like the hazard insurance reserves and the tax reserves, and they're zeroed out in there because they're part of the template. But there's 2 places you can input reserves. You can input them here, as part of a template item, or you can use the monthly multipliers. I would always advise you use the monthly multipliers. The templates that you have in your system are probably a remnant from just before we had those multipliers in there, because we didn't always have this. So what you would do, Judd, is you'd come in here and you would actually hit the trash can next to your hazard insurance reserves. And Brian, if you would go ahead and do the same, just hit the trash can there and then hit apply to loan. And then go ahead and arrow forward 1 screen. And we're going to use the monthly multipliers instead. So in the hazard insurance reserves area, go ahead and put 3 there, Brian. And then for the tax reserves, put 4. And then go ahead and hit your left arrow. Now what it does when you use those multipliers is automatically pipes those back into your closing cost details area. So Brian, if you would, go ahead and open the closing cost detail button again. And we're going to see at the very bottom of the list, we are going to have hazard insurance reserves and tax reserves. And you notice they're grayed out. That's because those are being populated by what you entered in the monthly multipliers. Does that answer your question, Judd? Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, it does. But would I just take these off and delete, like trash can those, or just leave them on there?
Well, if they're populated in gray like this, that means they're coming from the multipliers that you used. But if they're not gray and they're just part of your template, absolutely, just trash can them and use the multipliers instead.
Perfect, thank you.
And then in a case like that, if that's a template that's administrated from the top, you might want to contact Kathy Boltman and see if she can get that fee template changed for you.
I think it was more, I just created it and thought that I was.
Okay, all right. Well, let's show you how to edit your template then. Brian, if you would, go ahead and apply to loan here. And anytime you need to edit a template that you've already created, you can always go to the settings area up at the very top, and then you click on the fee templates tab. And this is going to have all the templates that you've created, not necessarily the ones that are administrated from the top level. So if you've created one, you can left click on the desired template. And in this case, we're on the first template here, and that's perfectly fine because we do have the hazard insurance reserves and the taxes, just like you had, Judd. So I would actually delete them off this template. So Brian, if you would go ahead and hit the trash cans on those guys. Yeah, the taxes too. Perfect. Now to save this, you notice there's no save button. All you do is click on another template or click on another tab. So Brian, just go ahead and click on another template. There we go. So that first one is now saved without those hazard insurance and tax reserves. So now anytime I pull this fee template in, I can just use the multipliers like I normally would. All right, any other questions? I know, Andy, you're still on the call here. Did you have any questions? Would you like to be unmuted to ask a question? Just to let us know, raise your hand. All right. Well, this has been a great session. Thanks for the participation. We did record this, and Brian, if you would show them the help menu real quick. I just want to show them where they can find this recording when it's going to be up there. When you click on help, this takes you to our knowledge base where you can ask questions, you can search for topics. We got hundreds of videos in here. But what I'm referencing right now is the very top left under the quick reference links. You're going to access our coaching call archive. And you'll see that we've got every Tuesday and Thursday call, as well as our most recent Edge Beginners class is at the very top of the list there. We'll have this one published by the end of the day today. So that top link there that says click here for the most recent Edge Beginners class, this one's going to be behind that link by the end of the day. So if you'd like to review this again, feel free to just come in here. And don't forget, there's a ton of other training and coaching calls in here that would definitely be of value for helping to not only maybe build your book of business, but get comfortable with the software, learn some new strategies that people are using. And there's, again, 3 years of archived calls in there, all gold nuggets. So if you certainly if you need any help beyond what's in the knowledge base, just either submit a request here or you can email support@mortgagecoach.com, and we are always willing to help. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and wrap the call today. Thanks again for the excellent participation. We'll have this recording up here probably within about a couple hours, and do contact us if we can help in any way. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.